Hi, everyone.
Hello. Welcome to our Summer of 25 Backyard Update.
We are holding on to the vestiges of summer. At least I am.
We still have 3 weeks, right? It's not like fall yet.
Officially, yeah.
And we're picking our tomatoes. They all coming out beautiful. We have tons of these.
Yeah, we're enjoying the fruits of those. But that's not really what we want to talk about today.
So one of the things we want to talk about is there's a recent article that came out which is showing some encouraging results that the group that's returning to church the most are millennials and Gen Z.
Right.
Which are people roughly between now 15 years old, and then the oldest millennials are now in their early 40s. And they're returning to church. And this kind of confirms what we've talked about, that people who are post-evangelical, people who've deconstructed, they don't want to leave Jesus. They don't want to leave spiritual community. They still want faith.
Right. And as you know, if you've listened to our backyard updates, that we feel like a lot of people who talk about deconstruction in a negative way give those who are deconstructing kind of a bum rap. It doesn't mean that they want to leave Jesus. That just means they're often hurt or disillusioned by the church. And so we have the privilege of working with so many who are trying to find their way. How do they re-engage in faith? And this article really highlighted that.
Right. And it confirms what we've been finding, right? So a lot of people have gone through cohorts, and people we've been kept in touch with over the last few years. Many of our former cohort members are actually returning to churches, not necessarily evangelical churches, though. And so even though we agree that they're going back to church, I think it's important to understand what they're looking for in a church, right?
So important.
Right. So we kind of made a little list. And the first thing that we feel like is probably the most important thing for post-evangelicals who are looking for church is they're looking for a safe place to be on a journey.
I agree. And, you know, as John's talking about it, and as we've had this conversation, with what I do as a therapist working at a Christian organization, I meet so many in the same demographic that we've just noted who have been hurt and are so confused. And their experiences, honestly, they're grievous. And when I meet with them and am able to just hear their story, not challenge them in a way that is hurtful, but just ask questions with curiosity, they find safety, which is truly what they're looking for. And that's how God brings healing.
Yeah.
And when I'm doing that, I often think this is what the church should be about. Listening, hearing, allowing God to work in that sacred space,
Right,
and bring healing.
So and in order to do that, they need to be free and welcome to express their doubts,
Yes.
to express their questions without being isolated for them,
Yes,
or being, someone trying to apologetics them out of that question.
Yeah,
right?
or us feeling worried about, what are we going to do if we feel like they're thinking wrongly?
Right.
Or how to help them in a way that's not helpful. We really need to practice as the church,
Right.
capital C, and individually putting those things aside to just hear the other person that's sitting across
Right.
from us, and that creates safety.
Right. So a lot of so many people have felt like they've been in a church where they had to toe the line, right? They had to conform to the dominant opinion on everything, and if they felt like they veered off of that, they would be punished or isolated. And so to give
People
them
withdraw from them.
yeah,
Stop
right,
initiating, going out, or even having meaningful conversation because it's different
right.
than the norm, and it causes discomfort.
So the first thing is that they're looking for that safe place, like you provided therapy, which should be in the church, where they can express those things without having those negative things happen. They want a voice. They want a seat at the table.
Right.
Another thing that we talked about that provides safety is liturgy.
Yeah, and again, I hear this over and over
Right.
with a lot of my clients, in particular those who've experienced religious trauma.
Right. They're going back to church, but they're going back to more liturgical traditions. And so what do you think provides a safety in the liturgical traditions?
I think it's what's known and expected, and this is not anything wrong. Some of it is just the way things have developed culturally in evangelical. Big groups, and it is free-flowing, which there's a beauty to, but it's the unexpected. And sometimes without very little guardrails, and so liturgy brings structure and
Predictability.
people know, and those who've experienced spiritual trauma, literally going into an evangelical space can cause a panic attack. And just even meeting with clients, one recently who was like, oh, I felt so comfortable because I knew what was to expect. And she had tried going back to evangelical
felt comfortable
churches.
in the liturgical.
Yeah, in the
church.
liturgical.
Right.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that. And so
So
that's
something
what
about that
liturgy does.
predictability, that connection to history, provides that credibility and safety.
Yeah, and actually enables them to have meaningful connection with God.
Right. And the funny thing is, we used to call like liturgy all stuffy and all that kind of stuff. Now it's like what young people are looking for.
Yeah.
Another thing I feel like that people, Gen X, Gen Y, not Gen X, I keep saying Gen X, those are older people. Gen Y, millennials, they are looking for, they want theology, but they want a holistic theology, right? It's not just this theology about how does my soul go to heaven someday, which, we believe that my soul will be with Jesus someday, right? I'm not saying that. But they want a theology that's embodied, right? That speaks to the issues in the here and now, right? Even just things like, the environment and the, need for healthcare, need for housing, whatever it might be, or things that on Long Island young people are struggling with finding housing, finding healthcare, finding childcare, issues of segregation and race.
Yeah.
They want theology that speaks to the restoration of all things with respect to these issues.
Well, and mental health issues.
Mental health issues, yes.
What I love that you said is embodied, and I'll just tell you for myself, the first time I heard about embodied theology, I was like, wait, what? Because of the way that I had been taught. No, it wasn't intentionally, but just that Jesus came in the flesh, and he lived out ministry in the flesh. He's given us a body too, and it's actually can be well, there's just so much that we can experience. That is another thing that we can talk about at another session. But anyway, our theology is more than just what we think in our brains. Right. It's embodied.
I think, there's been a lot of talk about how the church is too political, right? I think that younger people don't mind politics, as long as the politics is geared towards not so much protecting my religious rights, but geared towards helping others, benefiting others, protecting others. So if it's a politics that helps feed the poor or house the homeless, and I think younger people have problems with both parties, so it's not a partisan thing. It's more, my politics aren't to protect my personal rights as much as they wanted to protect others and provide for others, like people who are marginalized and needy.
Right. Well, when I think about that is what does Jesus look like aside from politics? Well, how did he live his life? And our faith, our Christian practice is above political affiliation.
Right.
And following him.
Right. Exactly. And it relates to this whole issue, I think, of holistic theology. I think that people who are returning to church, they want a more connected spirituality, right? They don't want it to just about like points of doctrine that I know, that I listen to, I learn about on Sunday morning, right? But it's more of a connected spirituality in their whole lives, right?
Yeah. More than just Bible studies, more than just going to church on Sunday, like real life, living together, even in the messy parts, to know that they have community that will walk alongside them. Right. And all of us have had hard times in our lives, and how meaningful, if you look back, what were those meaningful times that really helped you know that you were cared for? And it's usually through other people.
And also, one of the other avenues that we've talked about a lot is the more contemplative spiritual disciplines, right? So, mindfulness and, awareness and, and some of the ancient Christian writers talked about that we kind of put aside as evangelicalism, but experiencing God in our surroundings as we maybe walk through the woods and look at the beauty of creation, to understand that we can have a connection to God in some way in that. And I think that younger people are looking for a spirituality that that encourages that, right?
Oh, there's so much we could say about that.
Yeah.
You know, we grew up in a tradition that was afraid of mindfulness because it was Eastern.
Yeah.
And as you study church history, that's not what you find at all. So there's a real beauty to this contemplative, spiritual aspect of sitting and being with God and with one another's in community that is so much broader and deeper. Again, that could be something else we just talk about on one.
So
I guess updates.
I guess it's hard to summarize, but I would say what they're looking for is not so much a experience on a Sunday morning where they watch a stage and have information imparted to them, but it's more life, community, spirituality. That's more authentic, right, and connected.
I think one of the things the article said was touch points of connection, and that really resonated with me because it's so much more than what we know. It's true connection, being the arms and feet of Christ to one another, and what that might look like in day-to-day life, and especially for those who are hurting, because we tend to want people to get over their stuff pretty quickly here, and sometimes that just doesn't happen.
Right, and that goes back to the first point. They want a safe place to be on the journey, and part of that safety is giving the time to be on that journey, right? And having the patience and long suffering with each other to be on that journey. Anyway, we could talk about this for all forever, and we all did want to say a couple things. One is check out our website. We made some updates. We uploaded a bunch of videos on the videos page, which have some stories from people who have actually gone through cohorts, which are really great. So check that out. And we have some plans that we're making about some different things we're going to do with cohorts in the future. We'll talk about that again in our next update. But anyway, we want to just thank you for your partnership. We appreciate you walking alongside with us as we walk alongside others, and together we're seeing amazing change, amazing transformation.
I agree with what you said. We just from the bottom of our hearts want to thank you. We feel so privileged, really. We know what we do isn't for everybody, but it's what God has given to us, and we feel privileged to have you invest in what we do and be part of that. And so thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. All right. Well, until next time, thank you very much.